An Enquiry Concerning Human Understanding by David Hume. Book summary in English, Audiobook. Chapter 1. The Beginning of Doubt in the Heart of 18th Century Edinburgh. A brilliant mind sat alone in a small study. David Hume, a philosopher known for challenging everything people believed to be true, began a journey. His mission, to understand the very nature of human understanding. But where should one begin when everything around them seems uncertain? Hume's quest was no small feat. He wasn't just asking about how we know what we know, he was asking whether we could know anything for certain at all. The world around him, as he saw it, was filled with assumptions. People believed in the causal relationship between events, but Hume wondered, could we be sure that one thing causes another? Could we trust our own senses, our experiences, or even our reasoning? He wasn't trying to destroy human knowledge, but to strip away layers of belief until only the truth remained. Hume began his inquiry with the most fundamental question: how do we form knowledge? He observed that all our ideas, all our thoughts are derived from impressions, the raw data we get from our senses. But what happens when we try to move beyond these impressions? What happens when we try to reason, to connect one idea to another? Hume would soon find that our minds are filled with uncertainties, and this could lead to startling revelations. Chapter 2. The Problem of Causality. As Hume delved deeper, he began to question one of humanity's most sacred beliefs: causality. The idea that one event causes another was something most people accepted without hesitation. But could it really be true? Hume argued that we never directly observe causality. We only see events following one another in a sequence. If you push a glass, it falls to the ground. But does that mean your push caused the fall? Hume wasn't so sure. To understand why, Hume broke causality down into its components. We perceive one event followed by another, and we expect that sequence to continue. But where does that expectation come from? It's a habit of the mind, built on repeated experiences, not something we can directly observe. The mind assumes the future will resemble the past, but there is no logical certainty in this assumption. In fact, the entire concept of cause and effect was built on the fragile foundation of human experience. But what happens when something shatters that pattern? What if our experiences don't line up in a predictable way? The answer, according to Hume, is discomforting. Without the certainty of causality, how could we trust anything we know? Chapter 3. The Limits of Reason. In this chapter, Hume took his skepticism a step further. He acknowledged that human beings pride themselves on their ability to reason, to think logically, to create theories, and to make sense of the world. But was reason as reliable as people believed? Hume argued that reason itself had limitations. It could only deal with relations of ideas like math or logic, which were true by definition. But when it came to matters of fact, such as whether a ship is sailing, or whether the sun will rise tomorrow, reason was powerless. These were matters we could not know with certainty, as we had no direct access to them. Even worse, Hume proposed that much of our reasoning was driven by custom and habit, not by any logical process. We grow used to seeing certain patterns in life and infer conclusions from them. But this didn't make those conclusions true. It simply made them convenient. So, while reason helped guide us, it was far from infallible. Our minds often deceive us, wrapping us in comforting beliefs that have no real grounding in certainty. The more Hume pondered these questions, the more his world seemed to be unraveling. What could humans trust if not reason or causality? Could we ever truly understand the world around us, or were we doomed to live in a fog of uncertainty? Chapter 4. The Role of Custom and Habit. Hume's exploration continued, and as he went deeper, a fascinating twist emerged. Despite his doubts about reason, there was something that seemed to work with remarkable consistency: custom and habit. Hume realized that much of human understanding wasn't driven by cold logic, but by patterns. Over time, people learned to expect certain outcomes based on repeated experiences. When you touch fire, it burns. When you eat, you feel satisfied. These habits were ingrained in our minds, shaping the way we interpreted the world. However, there was a catch. These customs were not based on any proof or reasoning. They simply felt right after repeated occurrences. Hume's insight was groundbreaking. Our most fundamental beliefs about the world were based on habit, not rationality. This revelation was unsettling. What happens when custom leads us astray? What if we are so deeply entrenched in our habits that we can't distinguish them from the truth? Hume's work cast a shadow over every assumption people.